Good morning. Welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services Criminal Justice Legal Services Initiative RFP webinar. Joining us today to discuss the RFP is the Human Services Department. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Lauren Doss. I am the project coordinator for the Human Service Division, and I also will be hosting the webinar today. And I will pass it to my colleague, Courtney.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Palomore. I am the manager of family and support programs for Human Services Division, and I'm here to support Lauren and the team, and I will pass it to Sarah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sarah Neismer. I will be the lead project manager for CJLSI. Looking forward to working with all of you in the future.
Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the questions box and we will respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. Please use the question box to also notify us of any issues, technical issues. Please be advised that this webinar is being recorded. Anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in writing in the form of an addendum issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with a link of the recording, and a PDF of the slides will be posted to the DFSS webpage at www.chicago.gov under the Alerts and/or Funding Opportunities tabs. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. Next slide. As for the agenda, we just went through the welcome and introductions, and we will now go through the purpose of the RFP, the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and then the questions. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to the Human Services Department.
I would like to state that during the question and answer period, you can always email me. My email is on the first page of the RFP, lauren.doss@cdfchicago.org, as well as my phone number, 312-743-0938. I would prefer questions by email during the question and answer period. So with that being said, I would like to start the purpose of the RFP. Having a criminal record is one of the biggest barriers to advancement that many Americans face. Criminal records prevent citizens from partaking in many of the benefits that other fellow citizens enjoy. Often, this affects a person's ability to obtain employment, housing, education, and other benefits, which leads into the purpose of the RFP. The purpose of the Criminal Justice Legal Services Initiative is to solicit proposals from qualified organizations with expertise in providing legal aid services and community outreach and education to assist youth and adults in Chicago. This RFP is focused on the challenges associated with having a criminal record. Now, the primary component of this program involves providing legal services to clients, including consultation and direct representation for legal matters. Now, this program is limited in scope. I repeat, this program is limited in scope. Legal matters are limited to represent clients post-adjudication and/or disposition for the following: juvenile expungement, expungement, adult sealing, cannabis expungement, resolving certain warrants for clients seeking other eligible covered services. Now, this only applies to nonviolent misdemeanors as well as other criminal relief for adults. Now, the goals. The goal is to ensure that Chicago residents residing in community areas impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic have access to legal aid services and community education to help alleviate barriers to employment, housing, and education. Now, all collateral consequences of an arrest, charge, or conviction can limit people from becoming productive citizens. Now, we are doing a re-release of the RFP to ensure adequate coverage service delivery within the targeted zones. Initially, we had 5 zones. However, 2 zones have been awarded to a delegate, and we are re-releasing for 3 zones, which includes near south, southwest, and west zones. This is ensuring that residents in these areas have access to critical legal aid services outlined in this program. The current priorities for improvement of this program are 3. We would like to refine target area and population, create a comprehensive legal safety nets for Chicago, as well as last, prioritize and continuous improvement, which focuses on data collection, analysis, and program quality. Again, these are the 3 target area zones, which are near South Zone, which includes Washington Park community area, Woodlawn, South Shore, etc. The next zone will be Southwest Zone, which includes Garfield Ridge, Archer Heights, Brighton Park, and you see the other names down below. And then the last zone is West Zone, which includes Humble Park, Austin, West Garfield Park. Now, the program requirements for the CJLSI program, respondents will be expected to address the following legal matters, again, post-adjudication and/or disposition. These matters include, once again, juvenile expungement, adult sealing, cannabis expungement, resolving certain warrants for clients seeking other eligible covered services, which again, this only applies to nonviolent misdemeanors, as well as other criminal records relief for adults. This is program requirements continues. As far as the legal service component, this includes intake, interview, and clarification of legal questions, legal research on behalf of the client, education concerning legal rights, including community education and workshops, advocacy to secure needed and entitled benefits, as well as representation in court and hearings by a licensed attorney, trained paralegal, or a law student. I would like to state all clients will be screened for criminal legal services. We know that a majority of clients may have other civil issues. This initiative will provide various civil services support, which includes but are not limited to child support, curfew violations, employment, healthcare background check, housing, access to public benefits, which includes SNAP, WIC, and Medicaid, school suspension and expulsion. We would like to reiterate all legal referrals will be screened prior to case acceptance. The performance measures that we are looking for. So 60% of juvenile records expunged. The impact would be improving long-term access to housing, employment, and living wage, and or reduce barriers to employment, which also would increase access to legal counsel for justice-involved youth. For the performance metric for adults, 40% of eligible adult cases are resolved, which includes ending in sealing and or expungement of records. The impact for this metric would be reducing barriers to employment and or improving long-term access to housing, employment, and living wage, as well as increasing access to legal counsel for justice-involved adults. And the last performance metric is 60% of youth and adults report that they have an increased knowledge of legal access services, basically attending Know Your Rights workshops. So for this performance metric, the impact we would like to see as an increased knowledge for youth and adults about their rights and encounters with police and accessing legal counsel. For program outputs, the 12,000 attendees for Know Your Rights workshop, this is the overall program output. If you are applying to one zone, roughly you will need to have serviced at least 2,400 attendees for that zone. For the 3,600 cases, this again is an overall output. For one zone, you will have to have serviced at least 720 cases for that zone. And then again, lastly, 1,200 legal cases accepted, 240 cases per zone. I did not want people to feel overwhelmed about the numbers. Again, these numbers are overall program outputs, and we wanted to clarify that and make that clear. Now, for performance goals and outcomes, we are monitoring and recognizing the intermediate progress towards the above performance indicators. DFSS also intends to track output metrics in our designated system that may include but are not limited to legal services. So for legal services, we would like to see the number of legal screenings completed and number of cases accepted for representation, number of legal services provided by type, which were listed in previous slides: juvenile expungement, adult sealing, cannabis expungement, warrants and bond, and other criminal relief records, relief for adults, number of non-legal services and or consultations provided by type, which includes, again, school suspension and expulsion, wage theft, wrongful termination, truancy, curfew violations, healthcare background waivers, child support, and assistance in obtaining public benefits and public housing, as well as the amount of court fees and or legal fees costs averted by the client. And then for education and outreach, we would like to know the number of Know Your Rights workshops provided, as well as number of workshop attendees. All data collected regarding youth and adult cases should be deemed sensitive and secured in a confidential matter. As far as respondent selection criteria, the first category is community involvement. So DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent must demonstrate a clear understanding of their chosen zones for services as it relates to the youth and adult population and legal services, including strengths, assets, needs, and challenges. The respondent demonstrates a commitment to access to legal services and legal education. The respondent's leadership reflects and engages the people of the communities it serves. The next selection criteria is organizational capacity. DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following. The respondent has a plan to hire and retain qualified legal and educational staff that have legal knowledge regarding juvenile expungement, adult expungement, cannabis expungement, sealing, and warrants. The respondent has adequate systems and processes to support monitoring legal case progress, program expenditures, and fiscal controls. The strength of proposed program, DFSS, we will evaluate applications based on these things. Respondents describes a minimum of 2 years performing legal services on a community level, mention any specific background and or training in expungement and sealing law, and can cite the number of cases they have filed in these areas. Respondent explains their history in delivering workshops, including Know Your Rights workshops. Respondents also provides details about how how the agency keeps up with the current legislation and legal remedies in Illinois, and how trainings are updated to reflect these changes. The respondent clearly defines services, legal and education, to provide directly or through partnerships and or linkage agreements with other agencies that are appropriate to addressing needs of and achieving desired outcomes for youth and adult clients. The respondent has an effective outreach strategy and approach to identifying clients through outreach, education, social media platforms, and community events. And lastly, the respondent has partnerships or coordinates with other agencies to expand or improve services in a client-centered, comprehensive way, which connects clients to services beyond legal services. Uh, Performance management and outcome, we will evaluate applications based on the following. Respondent provides data about the proposed program or a similar program that describes the evaluation of program outputs and evaluation of outcomes outlined in the performance measure sections of the RFP. Respondent describes evaluations, i.e. in-person or online surveys implemented with legal clients and workshop attendees, and describes how that data is utilized to inform services. Respondents demonstrate the ability to leverage data and identify areas of improvement. And lastly, respondent has experience using data to inform and or improve its services or practices. For reasonable cost budget justification and leverage of funds, DFSS, we will evaluate applications on the following. The respondent has the physical capacity to provide legal services and education through reimbursement structure. The respondent leverages other funds and in-kind contributions to support total program and administrative costs. Examples: state, federal, foundation, corporate, and individual donations. The respondent demonstrates reasonable implementation costs and funding that reflects services and staffing necessary to operate the program. The proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work or work plan. For the attachments, please be sure to attach reports, studies, or other documentation that show performance towards reaching the program goals, demonstrate results and accomplishments. Also, please be sure to attach resumes for key staff that are overseeing the program. Please be sure to attach your organization budget for this program. This is a key factor. Also, make sure that all program requirements are addressed in the RFP application. The evaluation process. We will evaluate on the strengths of the proposal and the responsiveness to the selection criteria. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. The commissioner, upon review of recommended agency or agencies, may reject, deny, or recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and or area of need, as well as DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provided in a linguistic and culturally appropriate manner. As far as the transition timeline, today we are having the pre-proposal webinar, which is March 7th. Questions are due on March 12th, by March 12th, preferably again by email. Applications are due on March 26th by noon. We would like the contract period to begin April 1st. For the budget proposal, the contract term will be April 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. The amount for this RFP for the contract term is between $300,000 and $500,000 per zone. Individual agencies must be able to demonstrate a minimum of 10% in-kind match. Administrative costs will be capped at 15% per application. Please submit a one-year budget of services. Cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP. Except for RFPs that have cost proposals, when submitting your budget and proposal, please be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual costs. We typically cannot give you more money than what you asked for. Use the reasonable cost question on the application to discuss how you determine the cost reflected in the budget. Budget proposal, the common errors that we typically see: fringes, please check your calculations. Supplies, there are frequently under or over, so please make sure you check those as well. Client assistance, if this is an appropriate and reliable cost, don't forget to include it. Make sure your job description titles and job descriptions uploads have the same title. Also put a brief description of the job in the budget document. If you have not discussed this in your application, put your budget in the appropriate column and also show your match. Again, application deadline is March 26th by noon. We cannot accept late applications. And now I will pass it to Jill.
Starting with a couple application tips, we can't stress enough for you to start your application as early as possible and to save it as often as possible. If you have never done business with the City of Chicago, register as an iSupplier, also known as e-procurement, as soon as possible. Review RFP narratives and application questions closely. Remember, they align with the scope and the selection criteria. Please use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please do not use the back button on your browser when entering your responses. You can possibly lose your work. And again, we strongly encourage respondents to start their application early and save it as often as possible. Just some tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you must use a separate email address for each submission. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of March 26th at 12 noon. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early, and plan on the submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Again, late applications cannot be accepted. For technical assistance, make use of the e-procurement hotline for help at 312-744-4357. The hotline can also, customer support can also be reached at customersupport@cityofchicago.org. As of April of 2024, we have a new labor peace agreement ordinance, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. The only exemption is hospitals. Contractor must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. Contractor must enter into an LPA within 90 days of receiving notice from a labor organization that it represents or seeks to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? An LPA, known as the Labor Peace Agreement Ordinance, is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that assures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation. And in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. It's, for new agency requirements, we require agencies to provide articles of incorporation and any amended articles of incorporation. We also require an IRS affirmation letter. Please note that this is for not-for-profit agencies only. This letter must be dated within 60 days of submission. You can obtain this letter by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, please submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. A DUNS number is no longer required. We now require a UEI number, which is a unique entity identifier number. In addition to the UEI number, we require a central contractor registration. Please provide a copy of the entity overview page, which can be found on the www.sam.gov website. And lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is required. Again, for technical assistance, on the DFSS webpage is a link to the RFP of interest, will be a link to the RFP of interest and training documents. Please see alert section on our website. For questions on registration and e-procurement technical assistance for delegate agencies, please reach out to customer support at cityofchicago.org. And they also can be contacted via phone at 312-744-4357. And we also have training materials available, which includes documents and videos, which can be found on the cityofchicago.org website under online training materials. At this time, we're going to delve into how to enter your response and how to accept amendments. Step 1 for accepting an amendment. Select Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box and click on Go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, you will need to acknowledge and accept that amendment to start and submit a response. To accept the amendment, click on View Amendment History. Next slide. Next slide.
Jillian is not working.
Let me try to share from my screen.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone. Step 2 on how to submit your application. If you are missing information, you will be given an error message at the top of the page. Usually the error message directs to something left undone in the application. In the last example, the error message indicated that the lines usually found under the Lines tab had not been filled out. So in the example below, you see the circle, there is the error message that says that the RFQ control requires you to quote on all lines. In this example, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or requirement section. The quote value refers to your, in this case, missing answer. Once your application is free from errors, you are ready to proceed and submit. And at this point, clicking continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. When you get to this screen, this is like a summary page, and it's also your last chance to review all of your data and confirm that it's accurate. This is also the time for you to triple check your attachments, make sure everything is filled out and completed, and then you can scroll to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. And at the bottom of the screen, you will be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in the signature box before checking the box. And then once you have checked that box, you can then submit your application. Once your application has been submitted, please look out for a submittal confirmation screen. It will look similar to the screenshot listed here. The e-procurement system will send this confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. If you want it before they send it, you can always reach out to me, and I can send you the confirmation as well. At this time, we're going to pause for questions. And if you don't have any questions at this time, the question deadline is March 12th at 5 p.m. So you still have time to submit your questions if you don't have any at this time. Looks like we don't have any questions right now. However, if you do have questions, they can be sent to Lauren Dawes. She can be reached at 312-743-1938. And I believe she said that she wants to, she prefers for questions to be sent to her email, which is lauren.doss@cityofchicago.org. And for non-programmatic questions, if you have any questions regarding e-procurement, technical assistance, the e-procurement hotline and the customer support team is the most appropriate place to have those questions sent. They can be reached at 312-744-4357. That hotline is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they also accept questions via email at customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And you can also reach out to me. My name is Jillian Black, and I can be contacted at jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. Human Services team, do you have anything to add before we close out?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Nothing from me. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, everyone, for attending our Criminal Justice Legal Services Initiative RFP webinar, and good luck. Enjoy the rest of your morning.